Hello and welcome to my review for House of the Dragon Season 1. Now, normally with TV shows, I kind of watch the entire thing and then just review it as a whole. But for this one, we haven't watched Season 2 yet. We just finished Season 1 about a few days ago, and I want to talk about it because I really like it. Also, with Night of the Seven Kingdoms coming out, we're also watching that weekly, which kind of spurred us into action to watch House of the Dragon, which it's very good. It's a very good TV show. I'm going to go on an off tangent that kind of jumps into or explains why I feel the way I do about House of the Dragon. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say that it's bad or anything like that. I enjoy the show. But when I start a new show or watch a new movie, right? When you watch stuff that you either seen before, or if you're watching a show that has multiple seasons, you kind of know what is happening, who people are referring to, and stuff like that. The things that, like, when you're watching something that you've already seen, you already know what every character is talking about, or who they're talking to, or talking about, or referencing. So I have a problem with this because when I start a new show, they'll be like, oh, we have to go talk to Greg about that. And I'm like, who the fuck is Greg? And I have to tell myself, Kai, they're gonna explain who Greg is. You just have to wait for them to explain it. Because I sometimes I get frustrated when I'm not exactly understanding what is happening in a story. And again, I'm not saying that the story or whatever of whatever I'm watching, this isn't just a House of the Dragon thing. This is how I feel about any show or movie that is brand new to me. I feel frustrated that I don't immediately understand what's going on entirely. And so with House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones in general, the beauty of those shows, I'm going to kind of talk about Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. You're jumping into a story that's already going on. The people already, it's not the start, it's the middle. Everything is already going on, and you have to figure out who is who, are people's relations to each other, who is playing what game, who is being genuine. And I enjoy that about Game of Thrones. I know I just said that I get frustrated, but when I'm watching Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, I'm like, I'm like putting things together. I'm like, okay, this person is connected to this person. This is this person's parent. This is that cousin, yada, 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 right? And I enjoy that. But the thing about House of the Dragon that I don't like the time skips, man. Because like I just said, right? You start it and you're in the middle of a story. Cool. I'm trying to figure out who is who's connected. Boom. Next episode. It's like, a week later, or weeks later, a couple months later, and it's like, okay, it's still the same people, whatever. But when House of the Dragon does that 10-year time jump, I was ready to turn it off, because this is another problem that I have, but they coincide. Each episode kind of feels like the same thing, and I'm not even trying to hate, but it's like you have Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra does something or doesn't do something, but she gets, or in Rhaenyra's case, it always is true, but she's always going to do. Anyway, Rhaenyra does something, right? The king backs her up, and everybody else, or for the most part, the queen, Alice Hightower, Otto Hightower, they all accuse her. And then Rhaenyra defends herself, the king defends Rhaenyra, and then they kind of have to brush it under the rug. For the first, 3 episodes, that's exactly what happens. Daemon takes Rhaenyra to the pleasure house or whatever, and Otto gets wind of this, then he tells the king. Then Alice is, trying to figure it out. Then she accuses Rhaenyra. Okay, then we jump, 6 months, whatever. And then it's like, oh boy, Alice is another thing that Rhaenyra did that Alice is trying to accuse Rhaenyra of, but the king won't hear it. And even though Alice isn't wrong, you're on Rhaenyra's side. At least I was for a little bit, because as the show progresses, the Hightowers are kind of like the villains, I guess. They're not really villainous, but they're going against the Targaryens, and obviously the Targaryens, Rhaenyra, Daemon, Viserys, they are the main house that it's following. Obviously the story is very neutral in its telling. It shows you what happened, and it shows you how people get out of it. Lying and stuff, that's all the Game of Thrones. That was a big thing in Game of Thrones, is that everybody's trying to kind of take control, and whether or not they actually want to sit on the throne, they're trying to control things and move things behind. And that's what House of the Dragons is, which is it's good drama. It makes sense. It's like it's a fantasy show. Obviously there's dragons and stuff, but it brings you back to that medieval time period where they speak in the way that they do. And otherwise it's super well done. I just, the time jumps, they make me so frustrated, because like I said, I figured everything out by episode 4. I know who's trying to play what, and trying to figure out. Episode 5, 10 years jump, and there's shit going on that we have no idea, and I have to refigure everything out, and I don't like that. I don't like having to refigure out, and it's been 10 years, and I don't know. I'm not a fan of constantly trying to figure out what's going on. By episode 2, I thought I had it figured out. Then we keep doing time jumps where there's months in between. Or like, even, one thing I didn't like, Hightower, right? Alice. She gets pregnant by Viserys. She has a big belly, sorry, that sounds mean, but like a big baby bump, right? And she's like, okay, all right. So you're like, okay, the last time we seen her, she wasn't pregnant. Now she's got a huge bump. So it's at least been, 7 months, 8 months. You don't know how close she is to actually giving birth. And then, no bullshit, the same episode, it like cuts forward in time or whatever, and the baby's born. She doesn't have a belly bump or a baby bump anymore, and the baby's like a year old. So it's like, dude, in this one episode, we jumped like a year and 6 months from scene to scene. It's not even from like episode to episode anymore. It's like scene to scene. But I don't like that. I liked in Game of Thrones, and again, in this medieval time, like I said, it really brings you to this time period. I get it. Things take time. They used to send messages by Raven. So if they send a message on Thursday, they might not get a message back until 2 months later. You know what I mean? Like, it's possible. So I get it that it's accurate. You know what I mean? Crazy things aren't happening day to day to day to day. If a war breaks out, wars usually last months and months and months, if not years on end. So like, if the first episode, or not first episode, but like the first scene of the episode is the war starting, and then however many episodes or scenes later it's the war ending, I understand that that's a long time. It takes time to do these things, but I'm not a fan of constantly trying to figure out. Like another example that I'm going to bring up, when Rhaenyra got married to the Valerian dude. I cannot think. Oh wait, hold on. Oh, I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name. But the young dude with dreads, the son, Corlys's son, right? They get married, and then it jumps 10 years, and I'm like, okay, because in the episode where they get married, or at least the episode prior, somewhere around there, before they get married, they make an agreement. You're not into girls. I'm not attracted to you. So we'll be married and do our duty to the realm. And then on the side, you can do whatever you want, and I can do whatever I want. I am Rhaenyra, as apparently I decided to be. But yeah, I can do whatever I want. You can do whatever you want, but we're going to get married for the realm and the king and yada yada, right? To unite the houses. Then 10 years goes by, and none of Rhaenyra's kids look like him. Look like the Valerian dude. And again, that gets explained. I understand that a lot of the things I'm complaining about get explained, but it sucks when you think you have the show figured out, and literally next episode you have to do all of the refiguring out again. And then she kind of like has a little bit of a resentment for the Valerian dude, and you're like, why? They made a pact and they stuck to it, or you think. So it's like, what happened? And I just don't like refiguring it all out. I enjoy the show. It's very good. Those first like 5 to 6 episodes, we binged that shit. It was very good. I like Rhaenyra a lot. I like Daemon a lot. I think that Viserys is a very good character and a good king. A lot of the Game of Thrones stuff, being king goes to people's heads, and but Viserys always seemed to choose peace and like pick his people. And even though there were some things that he wasn't a fan of, he wasn't like cruel or like just being a villain to be a villain, and you know what I mean. And that's kind of refreshing, But okay, so here I'm gonna jump to this. Incest is wrong. Period. But I don't care what anybody says. You want to see Daemon and Rhaenyra get together. I don't care. Their chemistry is good. It's very good. Oh, that's another problem I have with the time skip stuff. I really liked young Rhaenyra when I thought she was supposed to be like 17, but apparently she was like 14. I don't know. I don't know how old she was supposed to be, but, and again, back then, 14 is different than 18 is now, and it's gross, and it's nasty, whatever. But, like, I like the actress for young Rhaenyra. I thought she was acted really well. I thought she was a good character, and, her stuff with Daemon, I wanted it to happen, and I don't care. And I'm gonna say I wanted it to happen. I don't care. But I wanted them to get together, but then when they do that 10-year time jump, I don't think that the actress that they picked looks anything like the young Rhaenyra, or I don't know, or not Rhaenyra, sorry, Rhaenyra. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it. Not that her acting is bad, but the character from the first couple of episodes where she's 14 or 17 or however old she's supposed to be, I thought we were going to be sticking with her, and I really liked that. I thought she was going to become queen at a young age, and it obviously didn't happen because Viserys lived incredibly long, which being king literally killed him. I'm sorry, I don't care. I know that he is older than Daemon, but how Viserys looks versus how Daemon looks is yeesh, but yeah, I really like this show. I do enjoy it. I like the drama aspect, and I miss this kind of stuff from Game of Thrones, you know what I mean? But I have to say, Game of Thrones just had characters I cared more about, if that's the way I word that. Like, my favorite Game of Thrones character is Jaime Lannister. In the first season, after he pushed Bran, I called it, which I know that there's no video proof, so it didn't happen, but I knew the second that he pushed Bran that he was going to have an incredible character turnaround, and I was so ready for it, and he did. Jaime Lannister's character, besides for the last season, which I don't even count the last season of Game of Thrones. It's so, like, not even Game of Thrones. It's insane, but like Jon Snow, one of my like second favorite character, Jaime Lannister, like all these characters, and again, there's more characters. I liked Robb Stark. I like Sansa. Sansa was a character that really had to build over the show, and she was put through some terrible things. But I just think Game of Thrones has more intriguing characters. I really like House of the Dragon, but I don't really like. Daemon is probably my favorite character, but he doesn't really do stuff on the level of Jaime or Jon or Robb or Arya or Sansa. You know what I mean? Like, so I want to say, like, I really like this show, but I don't love it as much as I liked Game of Thrones. And I don't want to say that this show is worse than Game of Thrones, because I don't think that. I just think that I liked Game of Thrones characters more. I was more invested, more intrigued with their characters. Obviously towards the end of season 1, which is spoilers and stuff, but the realm is divided between Rhaenyra, who is actually heir to the king, and Alicent Hightower, who thinks that her kids are heir to the king. But most of House of the Dragon, the realm is united, so it's more of politicking and less war or like actual fighting for the throne, where Game of Thrones, you know what I mean? Sorry, Game of Thrones, if you know what I mean, is like you have the Starks who, at the first season, spoilers for Game of Thrones if you haven't seen the first season, Ned gets his head cut off, and basically ever after that point, the realm is kind of in war, where the Winterfell won't kneel. They're trying to, stuff like that. And so I do like this show. I really enjoyed it. But when we did that time skip, I'm not gonna lie, I was ready to call it. I'm not gonna. I didn't buy Rhaenyra's older actress, and I didn't like Daemon was kind of just around to do nothing. It felt like when he showed up for the marriage ceremony between Rhaenyra and the Valerian guy, I thought that he was going to jump in and like be like, no, that's my wife, and I was ready, and for all the politics and all the back and forth. No, he just shows up, lets it happen, and then it's 10 years later. Like, I don't know. And but yeah, I'm trying to think of like who my favorite characters are. I think that Viserys is a very good character, but he's not really my favorite. I think he's just a very well done king who is not evil for the sake of being evil. I like Corlys a lot. I love his design, dude. I just the white hair with the dreads, it's so cool. And him being like king of the sea is so awesome also. I do also like the Princess Targaryen. I think her name is Rhaenyra. Yeah, I think she was supposed to be the queen, but they made Viserys the king. Yeah, I also the dragon stuff, super awesome. Love seeing them alive, you know what I mean? In Game of Thrones, they are alive and they do show up and they make an appearance, but it's not till like season 4 or something, or that they're like actually being like a threat or anything like that. But in this show, dragons are in full force. I love that. Yeah, I don't really have much to say. Like I said, with the time jump stuff, I was invested in Rhaenyra Daemon's relationship to the king, Alis Hightower. I hated Otto. I wanted him gone. I knew that he was just trying to play his own game for the longest time. But when you do the time jump, I don't care much about the kids, Rhaenyra or Alis Hightower's kids. I don't care. It's also kind of crazy how Rhaenyra's kids are... Like, it's a good contrast, I think, but it's weird to think about how, like, Alis Hightower is a genuine character. Like, she is not trying to be evil. She's not... I think she genuinely cares and loves the king. I don't think she's trying to, like, usurp the throne or anything like that. But her kids are assholes. And then Rhaenyra did a lot of lying when she was younger and like wanting to be with Daemon even though she couldn't be, and she wouldn't wed, and she was constantly being like combative to the king. But then her kids are the good ones. And I'm not saying that she is a bad person, Rhaenyra, for lying or anything, because back then, who cares? Everybody lies. That's all you had to do. That's literally all you had to do, was sit there and have orgies in the street, be dirty, and politic with the king. That's literally all you had back then. That's it. That was it. So I don't think Rhaenyra is like a bad person or anything, but it's just the contrast of her kids are genuine. Alis Hightower is genuine, but her kids are assholes, and but yeah, I like this show. This is the first season. I haven't even watched the second season yet, so I will do a review for it when I finish it. But I wanted to get this review out there because I don't know how long it'll take me to get done the second season, because they're all hour-plus episodes, so it's kind of hard to binge, working and streaming, and you know what I mean, like, whatever, I'm complaining, whatever. But it, I don't know when the next season I'll finish it. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this. Is it better than Game of Thrones? Does it compare to Game of Thrones? How do you guys feel about Knights of the Seven Kingdom? I will be reviewing that, but when it's finished. And Game of Thrones shows usually go to about 10 episodes a season, and we're on episode 4 right now of Knights of the... So we have about another 7 weeks until... 6 weeks until Knights of the Seven Realms is finished. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I enjoyed this show. I wanted Daemon and Rhaenyra to get together, which they are now, but I wanted it to happen a while ago. I thought that it wasn't going to be that big of an issue because back then, who cares? But, and it could be worse. It could be your twin brother and sister, Cersei and Jaime. It's nephew and uncle, or niece and uncle, whatever. Who cares? That's a crazy thing to end the fucking review on. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Have a good day, and thank you for watching.